It wasn't obvious at first. It never is. Because nothing about it feels dangerous in the beginning. It feels calm, familiar, almost like something you've been missing for a long time. It starts with small things, a conversation that feels different, a presence that feels unusually attentive, someone noticing details about you that others overlook, and without realizing it, you begin to feel seen in a way that feels rare, almost comforting. And that's exactly where it pulls you in, because what feels like genuine connection is often just carefully observed behavior. What feels like understanding is sometimes just precision, and by the time you start to question it, you're already emotionally invested, already attached, already letting someone into parts of your mind you don't usually open, and that's the moment it shifts. From something that felt natural into something that was never accidental at all, because while you were feeling understood, they were learning you, quietly, patiently, without interruption. They noticed what makes you smile, what makes you pause, what makes your voice slightly change when something touches a deeper part of you, and they don't react too much. They don't rush. They simply observe, storing every reaction, every preference, every vulnerability, and slowly, almost perfectly, they begin to reflect it back to you, becoming someone who feels aligned with you in a way that feels almost impossible to find. And you start to believe that this connection is rare, that this person is different, that maybe, finally, you've found someone who truly gets you. But what you don't realize is that you're not being understood, you're being mapped, studied in a way that allows them to predict you before you even fully understand yourself. And once they know you, they don't take control immediately, because control that lasts is never forced, it's built. They create moments where you feel safe, moments where you feel heard, moments where you feel like you can finally relax and drop your guard. And just when that comfort settles in, just when your mind starts associating them with that sense of calm, they pull back slightly, not enough to leave, just enough to create absence. And that absence does something to you. It makes you think, it makes you wonder, it makes you replay conversations in your head, and suddenly, without realizing it, your attention shifts. You're no longer just enjoying their presence. You're seeking it, waiting for it, needing it, and that's the turning point, the moment where the dynamic changes without any obvious signal. Now, it's not about connection anymore, it's about dependency, but it doesn't feel like dependency, it feels like curiosity, like attachment, like something emotional and meaningful. And that's what makes it so effective, because nothing about it feels forced, nothing feels manipulated, everything feels like it's happening naturally. And yet, beneath that surface, there's a pattern forming, a quiet shift in control, because now your emotions are no longer entirely yours. They're influenced, guided, shaped by someone who understands exactly how you respond. And then come the small changes, the subtle sentences that don't sound harmful on their own, but carry weight when repeated over time. Questions that make you explain yourself, comments that make you rethink your actions, slight disappointments that make you feel like you've done something wrong, even when you haven't. And you start adjusting, not because you're told to, but because you want to maintain that connection, that feeling of being understood, and slowly, almost invisibly, you begin to change. Your behavior becomes more filtered, your words become more careful, your reactions become more controlled, and the most dangerous part is that it doesn't feel like you're losing yourself. It feels like you're improving, like you're becoming better for someone who matters. But improvement, when driven by silent pressure, isn't growth, it's adaptation. And adaptation, over time, reshapes identity, because now you're no longer acting based on who you are. You're acting based on how it will be received, how it will be perceived, how it will affect the connection you've become attached to. And that's where the real shift happens, where your internal voice starts to fade, replaced by a quieter question that begins to guide your decisions. What would they think? What would they feel? What would they say? And without realizing it, you've started to live partially through someone else's perspective. At this stage, control is no longer necessary because it has already been internalized. You begin to regulate yourself, to justify their behavior, to explain their absence, to excuse the moments that don't feel right, and even when something feels off, even when a part of you senses that something isn't balanced, you ignore it because the connection feels too important to question, too meaningful to risk, and that's how the cycle sustains itself, not through force, but through your own willingness to maintain it. And the deeper it goes, the harder it becomes to separate what you feel from what has been shaped, because emotions that once felt genuine now carry influence. Reactions that once came naturally now pass through a filter, and you start to lose clarity, not suddenly but gradually, until one day you pause, just for a moment, and you notice something that feels unfamiliar. You don't feel like yourself, not completely, not in the way you used to, and that realization doesn't come with a clear explanation. It comes with a quiet discomfort, a subtle awareness that something has changed, even if you can't fully define what it is. And that's the moment where everything becomes clear, not instantly, but enough to start questioning, enough to step back, enough to observe the pattern from a distance instead of being inside it. And once you see it, once you recognize the sequence, the attention, the alignment, the absence, the adjustment, you begin to understand that what felt natural was actually structured, what felt emotional was actually strategic, and what felt like connection was, in many ways, influence. Because real connection doesn't make you question yourself this much. It doesn't make you adjust your identity to maintain it. It doesn't make you feel like you have to earn consistency or stability. And when you realize that, when you finally separate what is genuine from what was constructed, something shifts inside you, something quiet but powerful. Because awareness changes everything. It breaks patterns, it disrupts control, it creates space between you and what once felt consuming. And in that space, you begin to return to yourself. Slowly, not perfectly, but honestly, you start to notice your own thoughts again, your own preferences, your own reactions without filtering them through someone else's expectations. And that process isn't loud, it isn't dramatic, it's subtle, but it's real. And with every step, the influence weakens. Not because the other person changes, but because you no longer respond in the same way. And that's the shift that matters most. Not what they did, not how it started, but how you choose to see it now. Because once you understand the pattern, once you recognize the structure behind the emotion, you stop being part of it. And when you step outside of it, the control disappears, not instantly, but inevitably. Because it was never about power. It was about perception. And the moment your perception changes, everything else follows. So the next time something feels too perfect, too aligned, too precisely what you've been looking for, don't just accept it. Don't just fall into it. Pause for a moment and ask yourself something deeper, something more honest. Are they truly understanding you, or have they simply learned how to reflect you? Because the difference between the two is where everything begins.